Welcome to another provider preview. I'm Coach Julie Hatfield-Still, president of Beyond the Game Alliance. We're a nonprofit organization that holistically and proactively educates and supports student athletes in preparing for their game now, but also their game beyond sports. I'm honored to have certified athletic trainer Erin McCormick in the room today as a key provider for our alliance. Our providers are integral to our student athletes in areas that they need both to up level their games and for life beyond the game. With that said, Erin will be providing and supporting our athletes who are facing injury, which I've had a lot of conversations lately, and injury is just a normal part of most of these games. And how to return to play after injury. We're going to talk a little bit about what that looks like for our athletes. Erin, we are just thrilled to have you a part of this. Why don't you share a little bit about yourself as we kick it off here?
Sure. Hi, Julie. I'm so happy to be here. Sports and athletics are a huge part of my life and always have been. I've been an athlete since, age 3, whenever you could start doing ballet and playing soccer. And then through high school, I was a soccer and a volleyball player and had some injuries, nothing major, thankfully, but it led me to my athletic trainer in my athletic training room at high school. And I was like, you have like a really cool job. Like, I like what you do. So I started asking like a million questions, which led me to want to be an athletic trainer. And I've honestly never looked back. Athletic training's hard in the fact that, not everybody thinks you need an athletic trainer. There's not always one on the sidelines or at practices, but I've stayed through it and I absolutely love what I do. I've worked in high schools, community colleges, D2 schools. I've worked with some professional athletes in a sports performance setting. I've worked in a doctor's office. So I've kind of seen every side of the athlete and then also every side of the injury, because it's not just what happens on the field. It's not what happens in a PT clinic. It's not what the doctor does. It's not just what the athletic trainer does. It's the whole picture. So understanding from start to finish of an injury has become a really big part of me and my job. And I think what helps me to help my athletes, return to doing what they love, because I love what I do. So,
So good. And every time we talk, Erin, I'm like, this is why she's a piece of this alliance puzzle. Because I think you're very unique in that space and your holistic approach to athletic training, right? For you, and a lot of the conversations that we've had, it has been about the whole athlete and, mind, body, sport, spirit, injury, recovery, diagnosis, like you said, from start to finish. From start to finish. And, personally, I've had the honor of experiencing you in the practice of that. We've been able to work together in that capacity, and you've been able to not only impact in a positive way athletes that I have coached, but also we see the ripple effect of that way after they leave the room with you. We know why you were in such alignment for us here at Beyond the Game. Why is this mission important to you? Why is it important for you to partner with us and reach some of these other athletes?
It's very important because, so as an athletic trainer, an athlete gets injured. They're sitting in my athletic training room and like, we're not just doing exercises. We're talking about life and plans and, what are you going to school for? What do you want to do, kind of thing. And some athletes don't ever think like beyond sport. Like, well, right now I'm a soccer player. Great. What are you going to do when like soccer's over? They're like, I have no idea. So like, I've seen these athletes kind of come to that moment where they're like, oh my God, there's going to be a point in time where I'm not an athlete anymore. What do I do? So you start having that conversation of like, you could still be involved in sports after your life of an athlete and like, coach or be an athletic trainer, be a mental health counselor for student athletes, like all that kind of stuff. But like students don't think about it at the time. And then there's nobody to help them. I mean, I would help any athlete who would come back and ask me for anything like that. But like, it's not a class you take. It's not something you learn in high school. Like, it's just a big part of an athlete and your journey that you you don't always have the sports to support you, and like you move on from it, and like what are you going to do? You lose your identity of that athlete that you've had for, I don't know, 18, 20 years, depending on, where we're at on your life journey. But it's such an important thing. And I've had so many conversations with athletes over the years about this. So now that it's actually coming together and becoming this alliance, it's the greatest thing like ever.
I love it, Erin. And, I keep picturing in my mind, we like to say we kind of, they need the athletic training skill set that you have, right? But within that context, within that room, you're giving them so much more, right? You're giving them what they actually need. So, with injury being, I mean, it's quite literally on the rise. It has been for the last 10 to 15 years in your space. And simultaneously, athletes struggle, rightfully so, with being benched as a result of their athlete of their injury, rather. So, we see, and I talk to a lot of athletes that have chronic injury, right? They're injured, and then they get to play a few games after recover, and then they're injured again, right? And you're quite literally walking them through these transitions, sometimes back to back, sometimes at a time. I would love for you to just share your experience around what you're seeing in athletes when they get injured from a mental standpoint. What's the stories that are being told? What are their beliefs about their injury? I just love to hear a little bit of your experience in that.
Yeah. So I've had, ACLs are the big injuries these days with athletes. So unfortunately, I've seen a handful of them. And the athletes go through a whole thing of emotions. Like it happens at first and they're devastated. Their life is over as they know it, and they don't know what they're going to do with their lives. And I'm there from step one all the way to the end, because it's normally during a sporting event that I'm at that this athlete gets injured. So you're holding their hand like from the start. But people get down, they get depressed, they're sad, they're out, they think they're never going to return, kind of thing. So you have to be there and be that support system to make them understand, like, this isn't the end. Like, we're going to come back better, because we're going to work on everything. We're not just going to heal your injury. Yes, we're going to do that, but then we're going to become a better athlete, because we're going to understand our body more. We're going to understand our injury. We're going to understand how we got hurt and how we can avoid that. We're going to work on everything from, the mental side of everything to your strength. We're going to get you stronger than you were before this injury, so it doesn't happen again. And you sit there and you talk to these athletes about all this stuff, and it's everything. It's their mindset of how they're approaching things. It's when we're working out, how we're working out, where we're working out. Like, you can't just be in the athletic training room. Maybe we're up in the weight room, we're out in the volleyball court, we're on the soccer field, we have a basketball in our hands. Like, you have to approach it from all sides, because otherwise they're just stuck in this world of like, I tore my ACL and I am done and I'm never coming back. But I've had athletes that I've worked with in the recent years that like their life was changed from this injury, because they were able to approach it differently. ACL injuries, if you tear one, your chances of tearing the other one are very high. So I had an athlete who had torn one side, and I was not their athletic trainer at the time. And they were like, this is going to be horrible. This was my worst injury ever. I'm never going to come back from it. I was like, listen, I'm different. I wasn't with you last time. So let's approach this in a different way. And we did. And she was just like, she came back to me like a year later and was like, oh my God, this was like the best thing I could have went through, because we worked from like day one of the injury, and she came back stronger and better. She had her best volleyball season like ever after this injury. And like, it just changed her world, changed my world, because you get to learn about everybody. It's just a whole different experience when you can approach it from more than an ACL. Like, you have to see the whole athlete, and that's what I enjoy doing.
So good. So good. And I love that story. Because that could certainly go a very different direction for that athlete and impact them long term. So, I mean, as former athletes ourselves and, experiencing injury, we know injury has a long-term impact on our student athletes, which, here at the Alliance, it's so important for us to, empower, educate, and support athletes in the now, in their games, so that they're successful long term. How do you feel like managing injury, diagnosing correctly, being able to help support athletes overcome the turbulence that happens through injury and maybe being benched for a while. How does that ripple into later in life, Erin? Like, what kind of experiences have you had in that where you've seen it really impact somebody maybe in their 20s or even, their early 30s? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so there's one athlete that comes to mind, who I've unfortunately worked with a lot because she had had multiple injuries, which it's never good to know somebody too well as an athletic trainer because that means you've been hurt a lot. But I also love it because these people have become like my close friends now. She's like 26 now and has finally graduated. Like COVID extended everybody's careers, everybody's length on the court and in school. She has finally left the sport world for the time being and was like, I don't know what to do. And I am scared to do things on my own now because there is no athletic trainer. Like if you go to the gym by yourself, like there's nobody there supporting you. And if you go to, shoot around a little bit and get hurt, like who do you turn to? Because there is nobody now. So it's this thing some athletes are realizing now too, like I'm not going to have an athletic trainer that I could go to if like my knee that I've injured 27 times is starting to like act up on me kind of thing. So then they kind of have this fear of returning to a sport that they have loved because they don't know what's going to happen at this point. Like I've injured my knee so many times doing this that like I'm afraid to do it. So now there's this like new mental struggle that you're coming up on because you're out of the sports world. You're just trying to play pickup basketball and like you're so afraid because you've hurt your knees before. But I have talked to this athlete still because we are still in touch, even though she's graduated and I don't even work at that school anymore. But giving support and just being like, hey, you got this. Like we worked so hard so that you can enjoy sports into your 30s and 40s and like play pickup basketball, run around with kids eventually. Like, and you just kind of have to keep being that support system for them, that positive, reinforcement that they can do this. And this is why we put in the hard work when we did. It wasn't to finish out your college career. It was so you can continue to have a life after college, so you could continue to love your sport, and work in the real world and, have an adult life kind of thing. It goes way further than the sport itself kind of thing.
It's game changing mm-hmm. what you do. Which is why we are so excited to have you on our team and a resource for our athletes in the Alliance who may be facing injury, maybe have recurring chronic injuries mm-hmm. that they're constantly overcoming, and those who are in a space where they're trying to return to play in a way that's going to support them long term. Right? Get them mm-hmm. back in the game, mm-hmm. but keep them in the game, right? Keep them in the game for life.
Yeah. Yes.
Erin, thank you so much for joining us today. I so appreciate your insight, your background, your experience that you bring to the table for us here at the Alliance.
Yes, I'm so thrilled to be a part of this. I can't even put it into words how excited I am because this is something I'm so passionate about and I love supporting athletes. And if I could keep doing this for myself for the rest of my life, that'd be great too, because, eventually my body starts to shut down and I can't do on-field athletic training, but I want to support athletes for as long as I possibly can.
Yes. I have a feeling you're going to be able to do that here. So, y'all, if you're watching, our mission is truly to support these athletes in their game and beyond. And we know how important it comes to helping them get back in the game after injury and how to extend their game way beyond their competitive career. So if you need some support in this area, Erin is definitely the person we'd want to connect you with. And since we are a nonprofit, we invite you to join our mission to help fund all of these incredible resources like Erin and all of our providers. And there's really 3 great ways to contribute to the Alliance. One, if you're a leader, a coach, a parent of an athlete, an athletic director, high school year and above, varsity and above, you can become an aligned partner and allow us to come and fully service your athletes in a holistic, proactive way. And we'd be bringing Erin right along with us. You can also become an aligned provider, just like Erin. If you have a special skill set these athletes can use, and you yourself speak athlete, let's definitely get that conversation going. And lastly, if you're a corporate sponsor and you have a heart for these athletes, and you'd like to be a part of our mission to serve them, definitely reach out. You can learn more about ways to give at beyondthegamealliance.org. And if you want to stay in the loop, I'd also recommend subscribing to our YouTube channel so that you can see all of these incredible interviews and happenings as they happen here at the Alliance. And we are also on social media, so you can find us there. All right, Erin, thank you so much for joining us today. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Julie.